Today marks exactly 2 years since the assassination of whistleblower Babita Deokaran. The senior Gauteng health official was gunned down outside her Johannesburg South home. This was in August 2021. She had raised alarm over dodgy tenders at the Tembisa hospital to the tune of hundreds of millions of rand. Now, she was also a witness in a number of fraud and corruption investigations in the province. To honor her memory, the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, supported by the Whistleblower House and other civil society groups, will today hold a memorial and the tribute event at the Christ King Church. This is here in Johannesburg. Yesterday, just as a reminder to you, 6 men who were accused of her murder pleaded guilty and were sentenced to between 6 and 22 years in prison. Joining us now for a discussion on this is Executive Director at the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, Neeshan Balton. Mr. Balton, thank you very much for your time. Let's begin with the sentencing of those 6 men who have admitted to playing a part in Babita Deokaran's murder. This, of course, coming on the day of the exact murder when it took place. Talk to us about that.
It's a significant development. It brings an end to one part of the story that is still unfolding. The 6 who have been sentenced, however, have admitted that they were not the ones who pulled the trigger. So the actual killer or killers are still to be found and brought to book. And more importantly, those who funded this entire operation still need to be named, still need to be found, apprehended and possibly imprisoned for their particular roles. But the Deokaran family, with whom I was this morning, have indicated that this is a step in the right direction, but a long way away from total closure for them.
Are you concerned as an organization at the pace of this investigation, Mr. Balton? And I'll tell you why I'm asking you that question. It's got to do with what some of the colleagues in the media industry, in particular, I will say this, News 24's Jeff Weeks, whom we spoke to here on the channel, who says that the Hawks, it would seem that they have been very slow at going after at least the trigger pullers, because among them is the person who recruited them in order to conduct this surveillance on Babita Deokaran before they actually decided that they were going to pull the trigger. Are you satisfied at the pace of investigations when it comes to our law enforcement and indeed the criminal justice system?
We can never be satisfied with the pace that this has taken. We must, however, acknowledge that if you take the Senzo case and others, they have dragged on for much longer, which I think in general is the indictment of our criminal justice system. This case thankfully had the assistance of neighbors and all kinds of sharing of information that made the arrests possible within days of the assassination. Had it not been for that, I don't think we would be where we are today. I think that the 2 years that it has taken to get to this endpoint, whilst being very long, is not outside the norm of what many experience in South Africa today. So in overall terms, I think we need to look at this within the context of a criminal justice system that is, to put it kindly, weak and ineffectual in most instances.
The mastermind is still at large, and I suspect you are going to agree that that is the person that the state has got to go after in order for the family to get some finality around justice finally being seen to be done. that person, the longer it takes to get the trigger pullers in, doesn't that make you feel as though it may take a while before we get to the mastermind?
No, I agree with you, but there are at least four things that perhaps would, put together would amount to a sense of closure. One is the arrest, obviously, of those who have masterminded this, and it might not just be one person. If you look at the range of beneficiaries from the corrupt deals at Tembisa, there certainly is the possibility that this was more than one person who financed this entire operation. So we agree with you that is the one element that needs to be done for closure. I think secondly is action against all of these companies who benefited from corrupt deals and who were exposed by the work of Babita. Those companies likewise need to be brought to book, and we hope that the SIU investigation will take us closer to that. I think thirdly is the range of officials, not only in Tembisa, but within the provincial government, who turned a blind eye to all that was happening during the COVID period. A spotlight needs to be put on them. I think lastly, what will bring closure is when this entire system is dismantled, not only in Tembisa, but perhaps across all public health institutions in this province, where I suspect the same modus operandi is in place and has yet not been focused on. All of those put together would perhaps amount to a sense of closure, whilst it will never bring Babita back, I think would give recognition to her work in a very profound way.
As we conclude our conversation, the President has been doing some talking around the protection of whistleblowers. Babita Deokaran, whenever we speak about her, we make reference to her being a whistleblower. We know the recommendations that have come from the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, which also had to deal with protecting whistleblowers. It made specific recommendations. Are you satisfied at the pace of the work that needs to be done in order to protect whistleblowers and would-be whistleblowers so that they don't end up in the same position of paying the high price that Babita Deokaran paid?
Well, 2 points. One, there are amendments to the legislation, and from accounts from Whistleblower House and others, they think that the proposed amendments are going in the right direction, and we certainly have to see what the end product would be. Again, this is something that has dragged on for a considerable period. But I think what the President would need to consider is when we do these annual national honors, I think it's time to create a category for whistleblowers so that they become national heroes. And only when we do that will there be a sense of national appreciation for the work that has been done and the necessary recognition and celebration of the efforts and sacrifices. And perhaps then many more would be prepared to do this. And when the numbers grow, the few that have been doing it to date would not face the kind of consequences like Babita and others.
Neeshan, Balton, I think that's a wonderful point to end this conversation, intimating there that the national orders, perhaps there should be a category that recognizes whistleblowers. Thank you very much, sir, for your time, and they are going to be conducting an event today that will honor the memory of Babita Deokaran.